And a happy Friday. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Good morning. Let's hop to it. Going to be a little bit more of the same as yesterday. Working with cassowary. So, a little chilly in here today. Hopefully, it warms up. And I got my welding cap on today. Keeps it a little warmer. Now, what we're looking to do here is get this V box here to be the width and height of the layout. And we want the layout to be able to calculate this for us, something simple. And so we're going to create some constraints so that this VBox can controlled. Well, the dimensions of the V box will be controlled by the constraints that we give to cassowary. Now, I decided to put the properties, the variables that we're passing to cassowary inside of a hash map, and that works for me for now. We could probably improve the perf on that by changing the hash map hasher if we want, because it's only going to be a small number of them. I can't imagine that there was going to be more than 32 on any given container that we have. All right, there we will set up the variables for width and height. Here, we register the variables with the layout. Now we have to add constraints. We do not know what the width and height is of the parent. And I think that we need one more layer here. We went one layer too deep without realizing it. So let's create one more layer here. I think that we need screen. Or something that can provide these width and height variables to cassowary, because cassowary doesn't really know how much space you want to give it, and we haven't provided it with anything. I guess we could say that the elements within layout like are the full space given to layout. So maybe screen would be up here, and it would provide properties to that. That seems a little inside out for cassowary. Oh, funny, my desk is actually touching the lampstand. So when I move the desk just a little bit, the light goes whoosh. Hopefully, let's see, can you see it? No, you can't. You can't notice that. That's funny. All right. And good morning, everyone. All right, let's work on screen at the same time here. So I imagine that we will have that in here as screen. Screen will have there. VBox will have as a child of screen. Something like that. And the responsibility of screen would be to, well, when the game's running, figure out what the screen size is and then make anything inside of it that width and height. So we could add those constraints. which means that VBox would also need to ask its, well, need to register itself with its parents. So that screen could control the position, the X, Y, and then the width and height. Let's go into screen, screen. Good, good. Screen already tracks whether or not something is, well, whether or not the screen is resizing. So if you drag your windows, hey, Spaju, how are you? And good morning. I saw you had a Bloody Rally Show on sale. $10. It's a steal, man. Bloody Rally Show. It's a blast. I haven't played it in a while. I've been busy at work. My goodness. I had a good run with the Bloody Rally Show. I played that longer than I play most games. So, and how's the new game going? Totally not a spam bot. Good morning. It's going pretty well. It's going pretty well. All right, so we need this one to actually register itself. We're doing all the art with Blender. Oh, wow. Wow, very cool. How's our project? Well, we have the text rendering working, so we can generate um, glyphs in 3D space now. Also, we can create borders, which are really quite nice looking borders. And the game itself, to understand why that's important, is because the game is basically going to be mostly just remote control, right? So imagine like a really dumbed down app. Yeah, we got a camera a little while ago and the mustache shaved. So if you didn't see the stash, it's, we got a camera. But basically, um, I know the phone's off, but it's basically going to be like just a like a home automation system is the idea. Or that's kind of what it's going to look like. So it's mostly going to be text and audio. So you'll have choices to choose from. You'll have choices to choose from, um, and then you'll be kind of immersed in the audio of the world, which is going to be hopefully emotionally very. Um, we're going to play with your emotions. So we're trying to make the text look just awesome, the UI crisp, be able to get some shaders on everything. So it's supposed to look a little futuristic, and I wanted it to just render in 3D space, so I could use this later as like little signposts and things in other games. So thinking ahead too. All right, so we've got screen. I know this has some properties on it. We need that for on-tree entered, and where's on-tree exiting? Oh, that doesn't exist. Got a working build? Oh, we're still playing around with UI components. We had something before. Let's see. Do we have text? Let's see if text is working. Because we just broke a whole bunch of stuff to make a test. Password is a constraint solver. It's used in like the Apple UIs. It's like a superpowered Flexbox. If you're familiar with web stuff, it can do stuff that Flexbox can't, just because you're defining your own constraints, and it'll solve it. So we're going to be using cassowary, and based upon the work by G.J. Bardros and others in 2001. So that's what we're going to get working in this UI. Oh, yeah, we are not going to use that at the moment. Mustache soup accidents, yes. We're working on the next stash. I'll probably shave again. I need that to finish building out screen. All right, layout is going to go away. You've made two modes of mustache. Fully shaved? Oh, you've got two modes of mustache. Yes, fully shaved. One's in 2 to 3 weeks and unkempt. I'm right there with you. I ended up with a long handlebar mustache. Yeah, I mean, I could pull it out to like here. Um, and you can kind of see a young version in the, I don't know, I guess my icon still has that. But we are not going to be using this. I wish there was a way in Godot to very quickly know if well, to listen to children being added to you. So what I'm thinking about right here is how do we get the child of these elements to register, like this VBox here, to register with screen and to give screen its X, Y, width, and height variables so that screen can register constraints with cassowary. That children can register for like being entered and exited from the tree. So they could do that and then look for a certain kind of parent. And maybe we just have a certain kind of container class with a container kind. So maybe screen here would be container. And then we would have some other property that would be like AI, come on, fingers. And this would be some enum. And then we could basically do, I don't know, this would be a little bit of a facade, right? We'd have the actual container kind within, and you would choose the kind of container from Godot. Trying to play around with all of these different constraints, um, because one thing that we can do that looks fairly clean, if we go into UI mod, is to be able to look up the hierarchy for a certain class instance. And I want to avoid having this big if else. Like, can you cast into layout? Can you cast into container? Can you cast into VBox? Can you cast into HBox? And so I'd rather have a container type that is then configured. The other challenge with that would be how do these then end up exposing properties here? Can we change the properties at runtime? I don't think we can. On Starlink. Then I just, because we can't do the properties like that, maybe the if else is the best way, because it only happens when you're adding something to the structure. So that's not so bad. So in this, we would have something else, which would be like get container. And we just expand on this. Like, are you screen? Are you this? Are you that? Right? Are you a VBox? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because the only way we can tell what type the parent is by doing a cast instance. At least that's all I've figured out so far. Because behind the scenes, cast instance is using this ref instance, try from base, and ref instance does not seem, where is it? Yeah, it doesn't have much. And try from base, try get user data pointer. Yeah. When we get down, eventually we'll have the tag type. So I think this is the easiest way at the moment. Yes. And our instance here is going to have to be an instance of something that it's either got something boxed here, or this is generic over T, where T impulse container. Kind of like this, huh? She's got an interesting voice. So maybe containers just, it would have to be a trade, right? Pub trade. And then we could have these other types implement that, which means we could have VBox implement that right now, but we are more interested in getting screen to do it. So let's toss that on screen. Oh yes, where T also then has to be a native class. Yes. Always, I know, right? Just off stream. Gotcha, gotcha. All right, now screen in this case has to. All right, see you. Take care. Oh, impl container for screen. And for those of you that haven't checked out his stuff, um, they've got some cool stuff. Thoroughly enjoyed Bloody Rally Show. It was so much fun. It's like old school, like Carmageddon versus like GTA 1. It is a lot of fun. Oh, he's got a itch.io. Uh, okay. Well, it's a lot of. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Um, so I want to see. He's got this one. He's also got one in progress. Stardews, and this one looks neat too. Early access game. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that looks cool. He's using Unity, building the stuff out. So good stuff. Good stuff. All right, let's. Found struct container. Oh, container's a GD native thing. Uh, Curses. GD native. Let's see, which one was that in? Is that in GD native bindings? Oh, how's that getting exported through this? Well, let's be a little bit more explicit with our stuff. Let's say use super container. Will that help? Or will it just be confused? Oh, there we go. Is there's container, add child. We are not going to pass self in. However, we will say that any child that is added, what what is container? It. Container doesn't actually have to do that work. It just has to register the constraints. So we either have we need to have some way of passing certain constraints up, and they have to be named, which is why we tossed those constraints in a hash map before, or the variables it was a bit like that. So we could either have the child implement something, right, where C implements prop holder, or which I think would work pretty well. With props, or impulse get props, so you can get the properties off of it. And it would also be a native class. And we don't want to keep a reference to that. But when we remove a child, we will have to remove the constraints from cassowary. So we either need to rebuild the constraints and hope that the constraints have the same like equality Okay, so it does have equal. So if we rebuild the constraints when we are removing, that should also work. That should be fairly straightforward and quick. I don't see us adding and removing these sorts of children constantly. So not having to store that extra reference to something that might vanish is nice. And I'm going to second guess myself on this quite a bit. So let's start now. What, let's say, child implements C. Now, how will we identify child? So we have get props, function, props, a reference to a hash map, warp. Come on, fingers. All right, so child will have to implement that. What else? Okay. Now, child at this point, we would want it to be two things. Oh, what is this whining about? Yeah, okay. So we can't stamp this out because it has to be the caller that defines T and not this.